Hi guys, we are working on Module 4, Topic 1 and 2. I put them together and made it easier. So the first question, they're asking if you were going to name it, which means is it a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or none? Mono meaning one, mono. Binomial like in bicycle, two wheels, tricycle, trinomial. So the first one is an absolute value, so it does not have any name. It's not a polynomial, so we just say none. And it doesn't have any degree. So the second one, this is one thing here. So this would be a monomial. I'm going to abbreviate it. Second one, there are two things separated by a plus. So that's a binomial. And here are three things separated by plus or minus. So this would be a trinomial. Now, the degree means the largest number above x. Okay, so if it was like x to the fifth, it has a degree of 5. Now our first one, there is no x, so it's x to the 0. So it has a 0 degree. Here we have an x, it has a 1, so it's a 1 degree of 1. Now the next ones, we have x squared and we have an x. We're just looking for the largest one. So this one has a degree of 2. All right. Next ones, you're going to be adding and subtracting polynomials. And so the first one, what I do, adding is pretty easy. Subtracting, there is a little shortcut. Change this one to a plus, and then everything in the second parentheses, change its sign. Just change its sign. And then we want to add like terms together or like degrees together. So we always look for the largest exponents first. So here I have a 3. So I'm going to combine those two. So 4x cubed plus a negative 2x cubed, so 4 minus 2. And the degree stays the same. I like to cross them off after I'm done. Okay, so next one, I went x3, go down to x2, x squared. We have negative 3x squared plus 4x squared. And that is just a 1x squared, or just x squared, whatever makes it easier for you. And then go on to the next one. Do we have any x's? No. So anything without x's. We have negative 10 minus 8 equals negative 18. And there's your answer. Now the next one, you're going to do multiplication. So this one, when we have x's, we're going to add their exponents together. And there's two different ways. Let me change colors just because it's too many of them, the same ones get mixed up. Okay, so FOIL, you're going to take the first one, the first number, and you're going to multiply it to everything in the last one. Then you're going to take this one, the 1, and multiply it to everything there. It's just taking each number, multiplying it. So 4x times 2x is 8x squared. 4x times negative 3 is negative 12x. 1 times 2x, since it's a positive, and then 1 times negative 3. You're going to combine the like terms. Usually they're in the middle, but not always. And you're going to get 8x squared minus 10x minus 3. Half my students usually prefer this method. The other one is the box method. Since this is a 2, so 2 terms by 2 terms, we want to box this 2 by 2. We're going to take the first one. You can either put it on the top or on the side. And I take the sign with it. And the other one goes on the side. Now, if you remember biology and Punnett squares with genetics, one of my favorite units, I'm also a biology teacher, where they meet, you multiply it. Sorry for the airplane in the background. So 4x times 2x, 8x squared. 2x times 1, 2x. 4x times negative 3, and negative 3 times 1. And then what you're going to do, and it happens 99% of the time, the first number is going to be your first answer. So 8x squared. And usually the diagonals are going to be the same term. You're going to combine them together also. And usually that bottom right is going to be last. So top left is always first, bottom right always last, 99% of the time. And if it was a 2 by 3, you just add on another box to the side if you need it. All right. Next one we're going to do is we want to simplify this. They're going to have a couple different ones that you want to do. So first thing is you always want to make sure the x squared is by itself. So the squared is always by itself. So if we had a 2 here, we'd have to divide it first. But we do not have a 2. Ah, lovely. Now I have a truck in my house. Sorry about that. Always when you want to do these things. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of the square. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. And whenever we take the square root, we always going to put a plus or minus by this. So we're going to get x minus 9, because the square and the square root cancel each other out, equals plus or minus square root of 22. Now, with this one on the test, on the quiz and the test, they're going to have it twice. They're going to have you give the answer as the most positive and the most negative. So what I would do is actually separate these into 2 problems when you do it, but do it all at the same time. And then when you find the answer again, you get it. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually, let me find my calculator, we're going to find out what the square root of 22 is. And you do have it on your phone, just you have to turn it sideways. Do 22 and then the square root. So this one is 4.69. So we're going to go x minus 9 equals, and I'm going to do one positive, one negative, 0.69. And then x minus 9 equals a negative 4.69. And then we're just going to solve it. So we're going to add the 9. Add the 9. I'm just do it all at the same time, make it easier. So x equals, okay, and then clear my calculator. And I go 9 minus 4.69. Going to get 4.31. And if I add this together, I'm going to get x equals 13.69. So this one on the right is going to be your largest number. One on the left is going to be your smallest. Do both of them because they're going to ask you for both answers on your test. All right, next ones. So many different teachers do factoring a lot of different ways. The way I do it as a diamond. If you really want a lesson on diamonds, diamonds with factoring, go on to YouTube, search my name, Stacy Ford. I have a whole bunch of I have a couple videos on just doing diamonds and factoring. I find it's the easiest way to do it. My students usually have great success with this. Okay, so first step, find the GCF, meaning greatest common factor. What can we divide it all by? So if we look at our first one, I always look at the smallest. I can divide both of those by 7, and they both have an x. So I'm going to take out a 7x. 7 divided by 7 is 1. You can put a 1 or you can leave it blank. And I had 2 x's. I took 1 out. I have 1 left. 28 divided by 7 is 4. I had an x. I took it out. Now, since I don't have any x squareds anymore, I'm done. That's my answer. Always look for GCFs. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Now, the next one, this one has no GCF because the smallest number is 2. I can't divide 5 by 2. Okay, so this is your A, B, and C. So for diamond, we're going to take your A times C, and then you take your B, put it at the bottom. So A times C goes on the top, B goes on the bottom. What you're trying to do is what multiplies to give you negative 15, but adds up to negative 2. So you can always go to the side, and we know 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. The only way we can get 2 is 3 and 5. And we know we have to have a negative because a negative times a positive gives me that negative 15 on the top. So we just have to decide which one is negative. Since the bottom's negative, we want the top to be negative. Okay, or the largest negative. Next, we're going to take that 3x, put it on top of both the numbers on the sides, and we want to reduce. So 3 over 5 I can't reduce, but 3 over 3 I can reduce, and I just get x over 1. I still need to have that 1 there. If you read it from top to bottom on the side numbers, you're going to put it into your parentheses. X plus 1, 3x minus 5. And that is your answer. All in one little section. Makes it a lot easier. Okay, so the next one's A, B, C, and that gets you ready for quadratic formula. So multiply the first and last. 2 times 2 is 4. And the bottom one, the B is the bottom, times it. So it multiplies to give you 4, but adds up to 5. Since both of these are positive, we knew the two side ones. We could choose 2 and 2. 2 times 2 does equals 4, but it doesn't add up to 5. All my students seem to forget, whoops, I was writing it too fast. It is 1 times 4. 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 plus 4 does equal 5. Then we take the 2x, not the x squared. If it was just an x, just put an x on top. You don't have to put the 2. But if there's a number there, you do want to use it. 2x over 1 I can't reduce. 2 over 4 I can reduce. So I just get x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Read it from top to bottom. You get 2x plus 1, x plus 2. And that is your answer. A lot of teachers don't teach this. I know Oakmont had taught it. I actually learned it from Oakmont when I did my student teaching there. And I've used it at every school I've worked at. And students find this way is much easier. And if you want more into it, look at my other videos on YouTube. Okay. Now the next one is the quadratic formula and discriminant. It's too big. Okay. Discriminant, it's all you're doing is finding out how many roots or how many times does it cross the x-axis. You're going to use b squared minus 4ac. Now, if you get a positive number, it's going to be 2 roots. If it's a negative number, it doesn't cross the x-axis at all. And if you get an actually 0 when you do it, it's 1 root, meaning that it touched the x-axis and bounced up. Okay, so it only touched it really once. Okay, so for here, and if you remember, it's always ax squared plus bx plus c. A is always with the x squared, b with the x, c with the 0. So here, 3 is the a. We don't have a b, and our c is this. And we're going to find the discriminant. So 0 squared minus 4 times a times c. Always take the sign with you whenever you have the numbers. So we get negative is positive. And if you put it in the calculator, you would get a positive 12. They're going to ask you what is your discriminant and how many roots. Since this is a positive number, we know they're going to have 2 roots. Solutions, x-intercepts, zeros. That one has so many different names. Just use whatever you need to. Okay, the next one, we're going to actually use the quadratic formula. Very first thing, always make sure it's equal to 0. Find your a, b, and c, and you're going to plug it into the formula. So our example here, we're going to add 10 to both sides. So 2x squared minus 7x minus 3 equals 0. And I like to go a is 2, b is negative 7, and c is negative 3. Now all you're doing is plugging it in to your equation. So x is equal to the opposite of b. Since b is negative 7, we're going to go positive. Plus minus. square root of b squared. Since b is negative, put a parenthesis around it. Otherwise, your calculator is going to mess you up. Minus 4, it's always a 4, times 2, times a times c, all over 2 times your a. Now, do what you can first without getting a calculator, okay? It makes your life a whole lot easier. So x equals 7, we can't do anything about. I'm just going to set a little square root right there, just a little one. And then I know 2 times 2 is 4. Now you can bring out the calculator, depending on what calculator you have. If you use your iPhone, if you use your phone, you have to separate these into 2 different ones. If you have a regular calculator, you can plug it in much, much easier. So I'm plugging mine in. Did I put it in right? Whoops. We get 73. And if it wants you to simplify, you can't simplify square root of 73, this would be your answer. Now, if they want it in decimals, so you have to be careful. Does it want it in does it want it exact answers, which is this? Or if it wants in simplified, so what you're going to do is you're going to go, I'm just going to rewrite it over here. You're going to do it as decimals. So first thing you need to do is find the square root of 73. And that is 8.54. I usually go 2 numbers after the decimal. It makes it a lot easier. And since we have a plus minus like we did on the previous page, we're going to set it up. 7 plus 8.54 divided by 4, and 7 minus 8.54 divided by 4, and we get our answers. So once you plug it in, so 7 plus 8.54 divided by 4, you get 3.89. I'm rounding it up. And we do look at tests to see if you were close enough and if we do need to round your answer or not. The next one's negative 0.39. So if they want exact, you're going to do the left. If they want approximate, you're going to do the right. Okay. Next ones, these are going to have the imaginary numbers in it, okay? These will be the imaginary numbers. So first thing I like to do it by the tree. That negative, I always say it's -1 and 200. That -1 is just I. Now we're going to break down the 200 to be 2 times 100. And it doesn't matter which number you started with. You could have done 25 times 8, 4 times 50, whatever you want. If you reduce it enough, you get to the same answer. So 2 times 50. 50 is 2 times 25. 5 and 5. You want pairs, circle pairs. Doesn't matter if they're next to each other or not. Cross one off. We're looking for pairs because this is a 2 out here. Square root, square has a 2. Circle a pair, cross one off. The circles go on the outside. So 5 times 2 is 10. And I take the I outside. You can put it inside the square root. It's fine. We'll accept either way. And whatever is left that you did not, if you broke it down, you could have crossed a lot of these out. And we only have a 2 left. So that's your answer. Now, same thing with the next one. Here you have a binomial. You're going to distribute, if you want FOIL or if you want to do the box, either one. Okay, so 5 times 5 is 25i squared. 5 times -1. 2 times 5i. And 2 times -1. Now, just remember that I squared is equal to -1. So what I like to do is just cross off that I squared, put a negative in front. Just change its sign, that's it. And so now we have negative 25 minus 2, and then combine whatever you have left, negative 5i plus 10i, and you get your answer. Okay. Now, one of the last ones we're going to do, this one, you're going to have two possible answers. You're either going to have x contains from your minimum to your maximum. And that means when we're doing it, the quadratic is all filled in. Okay? Or, so here's one. You're going to x contains negative infinity to your min. Just a minute. Let me pause this for a second. All right, sorry about that, guys. My daughter was waking up from her nap. So you would do it from negative infinity to the minimum, or x contains your max, your bigger number, to infinity. And what that means is if you were having the u, or the quadratic parabola, you're coloring the outside of it. Okay, so those are the two different ways you could do it depending on how you do it. So very first thing, you are going to do the quadratic formula. Let me just change the color because I don't want it to be interfering. So A is 1, B, C. So x equals opposite of your B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. And usually these will work out to give you whole numbers, not decimals as much. And then you simplify. Do what you can first. Do the easy steps first. Then bring out the calculator, right? So 4 squared is 16. And then 4 times 1 times 3 is 12, and you're subtracting it. So 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So we're going to go negative 4 plus 2 over 2, negative 4 minus 2 over 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2, divided by 2. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. So we know our min and our max. So our minimum is negative 3, our max is negative 1. So those are where it crosses the x-axis. Now we have to decide which ones are those. So what you want to do is you want to pick a number smaller, in the middle, and bigger. So smaller, I would say maybe negative 4. In between, negative 2, and then bigger is 0. Just make sure you have those numbers. But just to let you know, if this, and then you're going to plug it into the quadratic formula. So on the top, so you're going to plug it into here. Okay? You always set it equal to 0 too. If this one is true, then that one is going to be true. So the first and last one are always going to be the same. If those aren't true, the middle one is. And just because it makes it easier, I'm only going to do one of them. So I'm going to do the easiest one possible. I'm going to do 0. So I'm going to go 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus 3. Is that less than or equal to 0? These cross off. So is 3 less than or equal to 0? Nope. This one's not going to work. This one's not going to work. If we tried it the other way with negative 2, and I'm just going to try and fit it in, just negative 2 squared, just to show you that it does work. Plus 3. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is minus 8 plus 3. So all of this, negative 1 is smaller than 0. So this is why this one works. So if the middle one works, you're going to do this top one. So you're going to say X contains your smallest one to your largest X's, and that's it. If the outside one worked, you would do these two. Okay. Now, they do have one question on the test. I'm not sure if it's on the quiz, but I know for sure it's on the test. They're going to do the quadratic regression. Okay, so quadratic regression. The first thing is you want to put the table into Desmos. I'll show you how to use that in a minute. And then you want to know this formula. I would write it down, put it in your notes, put it in your vocab. You're going to have to write the equation. Okay? I just looked up online, did it, found some numbers. I'm going to do it. So the first thing you're going to do is you want to do a table. So a table, you're going to go to Desmos, push the plus sign, and you get the table. Okay? Put your numbers in, and then you're going to write the formula. Okay? Now, if you didn't know how to do it, you're just going to go Y, and mine does it a little strange because I have to do it this way. Y1. As soon as you do a 1, it actually brings it down already for you. Then the tilde, which is right next to the 1 on your calculator, or if you did the table, it would be right there. And you're going to do AX1, and you want to raise it. Let's see, I'm not used to using this board, sorry. I'm used to using my whole thing. And then you would do shift squared plus bx1. We want the ones because if you look at the table, x1 and y1, they have a 1 with it, plus c. And then you can actually see there is your graph. And, sorry, there we go. Here's your A, your B, and your C. Here's your A, B, and C. So if you had to write the equation, you would do, let's see if I can bring it up. You would go y equals that big number, x squared, plus this number, x, minus c, because it is a negative. Okay? That's all you would have to do. Let me see if I can shorten this a little bit, and I can write it down. Let's see. Oops. There we go. So if I had to do it over here, I would go, whoops, y equals, okay, maybe I have to break this up a little bit. Still trying to get used to it. Sorry, you guys. Y equals, and you would go negative 0.000037. Just be glad we're never going to have you do it that weird. Plus 0.0255x. And then c is negative, so minus 0.527. And then you would have your quadratic formula. Okay, that's how you would do linear regression. Review this. I know this is a lot because I did put it into 2 topics when I did this class. Did it in class. It just made it easier. Okay, good luck. Try your best.